Planning mistakes. When you talk to travelers all day like I do, then you start to see some things that aren't quite right. So there are a few planning mistakes that I've been noticing. So I'm here today to clear those right up for you so that you know better before your trip to Iceland. Hey Team Iceland, my name is Jeannie and you are in the right place if you need tips for all things Iceland planning. I am your tour guide for those things. Today we are talking about the 5 most common mistakes that travelers are making before they're planning their trip. I want everyone to go to Iceland mistake-free. If you guys like to learn free, helpful things about Iceland before you get to Iceland, then you're gonna wanna hit subscribe. Let's get into it. So the first thing is that people are still surprised to hear that Iceland is super expensive. And we've talked about this many times before, but I still hear, we were surprised about the prices on the menu, or we were surprised about how expensive fuel is. Yes, Iceland is definitely a very, very expensive country. I think one of the most expensive countries. But that never stopped anyone from traveling to Iceland. Iceland is not the best place for budget travelers. However, I do know a lot of people that have traveled to Iceland on a budget. It can be done, and there are a lot of ways to save money on your trip. Ooh, insider tip, we have a money-saving video coming soon. But you definitely want to do your research beforehand so that you can know what to expect in terms of your budget for accommodations, food, and everything else. The next mistake that I see a lot of travelers making is not accounting for the timing of each day. This is something that I really pay close attention to when I'm planning my custom itineraries, because the amount of things that you can do in one day is going to vary greatly depending on what time of year you're coming and where you're traveling to. Of course, the daylight hours are significantly different in January compared to July. And of course, the roads are completely different in January compared to July. And travelers will often send me their itineraries with a long list of something that they want to do in one day. But if the daylight hours and the weather does not allow for that in the time of year that you're visiting, then you're not going to be able to see all those things. So this is a very important part of trip planning. Next mistake is the weather. So this one could definitely go either way, you guys. Myself and everyone else is always talking about how bad the weather is in Iceland. And so that's true still. But a lot of people will start thinking that the weather is the worst in the world and it's windy and it's rainy and it's all the things. And then they get there and it's perfect. And they're like, what was Jeannie talking about? The weather is fine in Iceland. And then you have the complete opposite situation, which is where someone would say to me, I'm from this and this place, so weather doesn't bother me and it's no big deal. Well, just wait until you get one of those famous Icelandic windstorms that keeps you up all night long because the windows in the entire building are shaking because it's a hurricane. That happens all of the time. It's pretty terrifying. So the weather in Iceland is difficult to plan for. I will give you that. But I would say, even if you read the average weather in the month that you're coming, expect all of the weathers, and that's how you can plan for the weather the best. Next mistake is not having the proper equipment or vehicle. Oh my gosh, this is so important, you guys. So important. So when I'm talking about equipment, I'm referring to, of course, your clothing, your footwear, all of those things, but then equipment that you might need when you're out on a road trip. So making sure that your car rental company has provided you with everything in case of an emergency. And if not, making sure that you have those items packed with you as well. You never know when you're gonna get stranded or maybe have to stay overnight somewhere or have a flat tire or anything like that. So always being prepared with the right equipment, food, drinks, warmth, clothing is really gonna save you. And then along with that is having the right vehicle. So I talk a lot about this in some of my other videos, but it's worth repeating. Having the right car for the right season and for what it is that you're doing on your trip is so important in Iceland. Because you don't want to get stranded on the roads and feel unsafe in your vehicle and get stuck in a snowdrift or on a mountain road. You don't want those things, I promise. And last but not least is not leaving the main areas. You know what I'm talking about? Reykjavik, Golden Circle, South Coast, I'm talking to you. I know that South Iceland is popular for all the right reasons. It's beautiful, the landscape is amazing, I get it. But honestly, the real magic of Iceland happens when you go outside of those main areas. And it's not even because there's less tourists there. It's because once you start driving into the East Fjords or into the northwest corner, there will be times when you won't pass a car for hours. Or you'll be driving by someone's farm and wonder, where do they get their groceries? What is life like out here? And to me, that is the absolute best part of traveling through Iceland. So go to the main areas, but also go to the not main areas. Trust me, you'll thank me later. So are you wondering how you can avoid these mistakes and many others? Or are you wondering how to create the perfect Iceland itinerary? Then you need to join my upcoming webinar, How to Plan a Trip to Iceland. It is completely free to join, and it is going to be packed with so many helpful tips for your Iceland planning. To join, all you have to do is click the link in the description below, and I will see you there. Happy planning.